Qué alegría poder charlar con el presidente y CEO de la Brewers Association, que realmente es el sustento y la creación de todo lo que estamos viviendo aquí en Minneapolis. Hi, Bob Pease.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm wonderful, Graciela. How are you?
So happy. Return.
It's great to be able to spend some time with you. And yes, we're just so excited to be able to have the conference again, and to be in person, and to just bring everybody together. Everybody here is a member of the Brewers Association, so to be able to bring all of our members together in Minneapolis and have that spirit of collaboration is, you can just feel it as you walk around the convention center. So yeah, we are extremely happy.
Yeah. And you are a fighter because you stay like this, and your team in 2 years so difficult, help people. Please tell about all your works since 2020 hasta ahora, now.
Sure. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, that was a big shock for the Brewers Association and for all of our members. Because as you well know, when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, the on-premise, where people go to the brewery or the restaurant to drink beer, it was totally shut down. And for craft brewers, that was particularly devastating because craft brewers do really well on-premise with draft beer. At pre-pandemic, all beer sales in the United States were 10% of those were draft. But for craft brewers, it was 30%. So like poof, that went away in the blink of an eye. And so for the association, on one hand, we focused immediately on what we could do to help our members survive. And so that took shape in many different ways, but primarily that effort was led by our government affairs team, the people that work on regulations and legislation either at the federal or state level. And so we were initially, the area that we were most active in was getting brewing and breweries deemed as essential businesses. Because if you remember back when the pandemic hit, only essential businesses were allowed to stay open.
And do not go to work.
Yeah, and so we were successful with that. So that was, one of the big things right away, a huge victory that people, I think, have somewhat lost sight of, because that allowed breweries to stay open. And then once they continued to produce and make beer, then we started working more at the state and local level to allow for breweries to deliver their beer to the beer drinker or the consumer at home. Because as you probably well know, in many states, before the pandemic, that was not allowed legally. You could only get beer either to take home take from the store to take home, or to go to the restaurant or brewery to drink on site. So we were successful with that as well, and have to give credit where credit is due. State governments around the country were very responsive, understanding that hey, we need to quickly change laws
like
to help these businesses stay in business. Because when we first surveyed our members at the start of the pandemic, the initial survey said that 60% or more thought they were going to have to close if the current conditions stayed the same. But so we worked tirelessly to not to let those conditions stay the same.
Yeah.
And then once things kind of stabilized with breweries being deemed essential, they were allowed to stay open, they were allowed to produce, they were allowed to sell beer to go or for delivery. We turned our attention to working with our allies in the United States Congress at the federal level to be very active advocates for all of the different federal relief programs that the federal government put in place. The first one was the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. Now that wasn't just the Brewers Association, obviously, lobbying for that, but we were very active with our contacts and our allies in Congress. And over the years, the Brewers Association has developed, for the 15 years in the making, we have outstanding relationships in both the United States Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. So we have some serious allies that are senior leadership in the Congress, and so we had their ear on working with the Small Business Administration and Administrator Guzman, who is the new head of the SBA. So the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, was first. Then after that, there was a program called the Employee Retention Tax Credit, which was a program that rewarded businesses that kept people employed. They rewarded businesses with money, with grants. And then one of our probably most significant accomplishments was our involvement with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, the RRF. We had a very good relationship with the primary author of that bill in the U.S. House of Representatives, and initially that language for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund did not specify whether brewery tasting rooms, tap rooms, or brew pubs would be eligible to receive funding for that. So we were able to advocate for specific language to be included in that legislation that clearly stated tasting rooms, tap rooms, and brew pubs were eligible for this relief program. And so in the end of the day, about 1,500 different breweries received $450 million of federal relief. And so, we really think that was a really significant accomplishment on behalf of our members.